The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. This is Kay Reed from the Dibble Institute, and I welcome you to this special webinar on Relationship Smarts Plus, especially how it relates to the new mandate for relationship and sex education in the UK. If your audio fails for any reason, please feel free to call in on the email you were sent. There's a call-in number. And if you have questions during the webinar, please just ask it in your box and we'll answer that at the end of the webinar. What I would appreciate knowing before we get started is, and by a show of hands, you can look on your your thing on the right, whatever it is called. Sorry. Would you, by a show of hands, if you are in the UK, would you please raise your hands? If you are currently sitting in the UK, please raise your hand. Okay. Well, thank you for that. So right now, sex and relationship education has been a course to be taught in the UK system for many years. But what's new is effective in 2018 that it's now required in all schools. And this report was put together by several nonprofits and government agencies in the UK that really looked at the implementation of high quality sex and relationship education in the UK schools. And we know that you all want to implement a program that's effective, that addresses the goals of SRE, that engages adolescents, that has evaluation research to show that it's effective, and it's one that teachers can implement with confidence, that's easy to use, and represents best practices. And they define high quality SRE as one that increases young people's efficacy and agency in forming healthy relationships and in making healthy sexual choices, and one that helps youth navigate their love lives in a world that is increasingly risky and challenging, both online and offline. So today we'd like to introduce you to a program called Relationship Smarts Plus that speaks to these goals. It's a comprehensive, skills-based relationship education program that integrates sex education and dating violence prevention. It's already in use in the UK as part of the Healthy Mind studies with over 10,000 students and evaluated by the London School of Economics. A preliminary data about that study will be made available this fall, and the final report will be made available in 2020. A Relationship Smarts Plus is one of multiple elements used in that program, and that we were pleased to have been selected because of our evidence-based and efficacy. A little about the Dibble Institute, for those of you who don't know, we publish Relationship Smarts. We're an independent public charity recognized as the research-based leader in relationship education in the United States. We're a clearinghouse for the field, both nationally and internationally, with regular webinars, newsletters, and other resources. And today, we're happy to introduce you to Relationship Smarts Plus. I'm here to introduce my friend and colleague, Marlene Pearson, who is the author of Relationship Smarts Plus. She's taught for many years at the community college level, that's 19, 20, 21-year-olds, and has a long background in prevention and relationship education. So Marlene, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me? I think it's okay.
Yep.
Well, as Kay said, Relationship Smarts is a comprehensive program that really is very much in line with the SRE initiative in the UK. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to start by saying a few words about why I think a comprehensive and integrated approach is really needed. And then I want to describe what such a program looks like, what it includes, and then finally, I'd like to present the evidence of its effectiveness. Now, I think in approaching it this way, it may help explain why we've gotten such good results and why youth have responded so well and why teachers seem to really like it. So let me give you a little background. 10 years ago, I began to develop relationship smarts. And I began to develop it for essentially the same reasons behind the UK initiative. You know, I felt that conventional sex education in the United States was too little, too late, and too biological. It's sort of the same things I'm reading in your Office for Standards, Ofsted, and also in the school health professional organization and everything else I've read about this legislation in the UK. What I started to feel was that young people needed more than the mechanics of bodies and sex. And they needed more than knowing the risks and how to protect themselves from pregnancy and STIs. And personally, myself, I've long been involved in domestic violence prevention work. I likewise started to sense some limitations there too. I felt that people needed more than knowing about the signs of abuse, control, the dangers, how to access help. That is all absolutely critical. But if young people are truly to avoid and exit out of unhealthy and dangerous relationships, I think they need more. So I guess, in a nutshell, I guess you could sum up some of my critique of sex ed, conventional sex ed as it has been practiced, and prevention education in general, is that it too exclusively focuses on dangers, risks, and what to avoid. And to me, a real missing piece was relationships. I felt that we needed to address that larger context and the forces that drive risky behaviors. I believe that we also needed a more positive and proactive approach for helping youth achieve healthy relationships, not just what to avoid, but how to go towards what they want. And that this could really be a central piece to reducing risky sexual behaviors and dating violence. Now, as I set to work in developing this curriculum, I had some serious questions in my mind, and I want to share those with you. So the first question that I had uppermost in my mind is, how can a teen make wise sexual choices and avoid risky behaviors, online or offline, if he or she knows little about healthy relationships? And what if you're a young person that hasn't seen many healthy relationships around you? What if you've never really thought about what's important to you in a partner or in a relationship? And furthermore, what if you've never been engaged in thinking about sexual meaning, sexual love? What if you have no understanding of intimacy beyond it being a physical connection? I think that we could say that, you know, young people don't have a roadmap for navigating their attractions and their relationships. And so by default, the roadmap is provided by the online world, the popular media, peer culture. When I think about the world that young people inhabit today, I think it could be very hard to figure out what's healthy and to authentically know what is it I want, what is it I value, you know, rather than just simply following the cues of, you know, the cultural scripts around you. So in essence, I really got the feeling that the deficit was in having a vision, a positive vision of what you want. So I feel that we needed to develop programs that would help youth cultivate that vision of what they want. And then we need to provide a pathway to get there, built with skills and knowledge to get to positive and healthy relationships. So what does a comprehensive program look like? What are the components? What are the features? How does one really do relationship education? And that's what I want to turn to right now. So in doing so, what I'm going to do is offer you some of the key components of relationship smarts. So first off, before even addressing relationships, there's a need to focus on knowing yourself. You know, as we say from the start, healthy relationships really start with you. So there are 2 lessons that include activities designed to help youth acquire insights into themselves. Things like, who am I? How has my past shaped who I am today? What are my strengths? What do I want to develop in myself? How do I see my future? What are my goals? What are my values? How do I live my values? How do I develop my own emotional, social, mental maturity? What qualities are important to me in thinking about a friend, a partner? And how do I deal with my everyday pressure situations at school, bullying, drinking, drugs, online porn, sex, and of course we'll do more with that later. And so we do this before we even begin to delve into healthy relationships and love. So Relationship Smarts then has 5 lessons devoted to building knowledge and skills to navigate that terrain of romantic relationships. The activities are all designed to make adolescents, I'll just kind of give you a list here, to make adolescents aware of the neurochemicals, the brain chemistry and hormones of attraction, how to enjoy it, but also not let it lead you blindly. To identify the characteristics of healthy relationships, to know which ones are really key for a foundation to build upon. Activities help teens examine how relationships can develop in healthy ways and also in unhealthy ways. Teens get guidance on what to pay attention to, what to find out about somebody they are attracted to help them choose partners more wisely. It also teaches a low-risk strategy for developing relationships, so you can discover how compatible are you with someone, so you can learn more about a person's character before getting in too deep, too fast, and how that might actually be more fun and romantic. We have activities to explore the meaning of love. Our goal is to help youth develop a more realistic concept of love. Importantly, they learn ways to assess relationships, to know, is it healthy? Is it safe? Is it worth it? They learn to detect disrespect and early warning signs of abuse and control. They practice how to draw the line of respect from the start. They learn about coercion, sexual assault, and consent. And they get a lot of practice in relationship decision-making from very simple things like, do I want to kiss you? Do I want to be kissed? All the way to, do I want to be an us? Do I want to get sexually intimate? How fast? How far? And importantly, what do I need to know to make that decision, to make those decisions? We also address breaking up. How do you know when it's time? Should I stay? Should I go? How do you do it? There are better and worse ways. How to move on. Now, another key part of relationship education is teaching communication and conflict management skills. Excuse me. We're very fortunate today because we do have a body of empirical research on skills for things like how to stop escalations, how to regulate strong emotions, techniques for how to talk through difficult issues, high conflict issues, how to raise issues and complaints more effectively so someone can hear you, ways to recognize hidden issues under the surface, and also problem solving. I think these skills are just absolutely vital for all relationships, and these skills are transferable to all relationships. They're especially critical for reducing aggression in relationships and for negotiating around any number of issues, such as sex. These skills are also really important for maintaining healthy relationships over time. So these skills are taught and they are practiced in 2 very, very robust lessons. What I've just described lays the foundation for youth to draw upon as they move into the 3 sex education lessons, and then the final lesson addressing the issues of the online world. So Relationship Smarts actually takes a kind of a unique approach to sex education. I call it a heart and health-based approach. Before they even get any sexual health information, there's considerable attention to exploring sexual meaning, intimacy, emotions. We use contemporary music, but we also use film, video clips, poetry, narratives generated by older teens and young adults to help teens think more deeply about sex beyond bodies, beyond the mechanics. Our goal is to encourage teens to define a context and a timing for sex that's personally meaningful and protective of their aspirations. For the very first time, they may discover some of the benefits of sexual delay, of taking their time to develop themselves and develop healthy relationships, and that in fact, it may lead to a more satisfying sexual love later on. So that first lesson is really about encouraging teens to forge their vision for intimacy and love. And this is what can really drive the motivation to be intentional, to plan, to use the sexual health information. I mean, it takes motivation either way to delay sex or to use protection. You have to have motivation. Now, in the second sex lesson, youth receive medically accurate sexual health information. You start with activities that are designed to clear up myths and misconceptions about sex, about pregnancies, about STIs. They learn the facts. They learn methods of risk reduction. They also engage in role plays to practice assertiveness, refusal skills, negotiation skills. And then finally, they develop their own personal plan for their sexual choices. We also strengthen motivation to avoid unplanned pregnancy with a very unique lesson that helps teens see unplanned pregnancy through the eyes of a child. There's a whole set of activities that help youth realize the benefits of waiting to form a family, to have a child, until other things are in place, such as their education, employment, and a stable and healthy marriage or relationship. The final lesson, and it's a rather large, robust lesson, examines the impact, the influence, and the risk of our online lives. I mean, truly, young people are increasingly living their lives online, and this is uncharted territory. So what is the impact? What are the risks? How does our hyper-connected lives, how does that affect our relationships, how we interact with each other? How does it affect things like our mental health? And this is where we address social media, sexting, cyberbullying, and importantly, it's also where we examine the potential impact of online porn. You know, as it has been said by many, online porn is becoming a major source of sex education for young people with some fairly serious consequences. The activities in this lesson are designed to really build a critical literacy around technology and social media. It's an approach that doesn't preach and it doesn't shame young people for curiosity, but it educates and it encourages teens to examine the impact and influence upon their lives. And ultimately, the goal here is to get each youth to design a personal policy for engaging with this technology and social media. You see something there called Advice, Friends from Another Planet. That's the capstone activity, but it is about designing a policy on the use. I mean, you know, the whole online world has a lot of positive uses, but there are also some very serious questions we need to ask about when, how, where, how much we use it. So that is a basic, just a really basic overview. I really do hope you come to the next webinar where we'll go in depth. But right now, let me just point to a few, I think, of the big features of Relationship Smarts. Quite frankly, I think the features of any quality SRE program. Number one, I think it's important to enlist parents as partners. In Relationship Smarts, every single lesson has a parent-teen connection activity. or trusted adult. I mean, some teenagers do not have parents that they can go to. The goal here is to share with parents what teens are learning and to provide short activities that will engage conversation on these really important topics. This particular component of Relationship Smarts is based on some fairly extensive research on the power of parent-teen connectedness. We know that is one of the strongest protective factors for adolescents. Parents really like it because they're included. Parents like it because they see what the program is. They see that there's much attention to developing healthy selves and healthy relationships, and that will help teens think through sexual decision-making. Parents say that the talking points they enjoy, they get talking points, and that it opens up conversations that they otherwise wouldn't have. Number two, it is an activity-based program. It's activities that drive the program. Again, we use contemporary music, we use film, we use stories, we use poetry, words, quotes, video clips, all generated by teens and young adults. It uses drawing, sculpturing, games, role plays, and many activities that utilize real life scenarios. And I think this is also why youth find it so engaging and very relevant. And also males really, this program has been used in all male programs, and that is interesting too. A third point, and this really relates to number two, is that scores and scores and scores of diverse youth, race, ethnicity, LGBTQ, help develop the scenarios and the materials. And they continually are employed to update it. It's very inclusive in terms of language and images. Another point is that the sexual health sections are medically accurate. They've been vetted with the highest standards at the highest levels. And for us in the United States, that would mean the Office of Adolescent Health, and that would mean the Centers for Disease Control. Number five, it's very user-friendly for teachers. It includes plenty of background information, talking points, how-tos for setup, for carrying out the activities, debriefing on the activities. All of this confidently prepares the teacher. It's gotten very, very high marks from teachers. Another point is that it does have sufficient time to cover a wide range of topics. There are 13 lessons, and ideally, you would probably need 15 hours to do them adequately, although it can be adapted. Number seven, it's been rigorously assessed. And that's what we're going to turn to right now. So I'm going to turn it back over to Kay.
Thanks, Marlene. Relationship Smarts was selected by researchers at Auburn University to study over 5 years. They were looking for what were the impacts of relationship education on a fairly high need but heterogeneous group of adolescents of high school age, so ages 14 to 18. They studied RQ Plus over 5 years with 8,000 youth. It was taught in schools by health teachers, coaches, and family and consumer science teachers. And they found that the program significantly decreased aggression, primarily verbal aggression, and it also helped to correct faulty relationship beliefs. So things like, he tells me he loves me, and I believe him after 20 minutes of knowing this person. So there's ways that you need to help young people correct their faulty relationship beliefs. But it was a very rigorous RCT study with very high results that got Relationship Smarts Plus placed on the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices here in the States. And that's how the Healthy Minds group found out about our program. Additionally, Marlene has adapted Relationship Smarts Plus to an older, higher needs audience, and that program is called Love Notes. The concepts are identical to Relationship Smarts Plus, but the presentation is more relevant to the lives of these higher risk young people. I like to think of it as grittier. And that study followed 1,500 students over time, over a year, after instruction. And this is my favorite chart ever. I'm sorry, it's not all that I didn't cut it correctly, but you can see that U.S. pregnancy, this was between 2012 and 2015, was about 52 students per 1,000. This study took place in Kentucky. 59 out of 1,000 became pregnant. African Americans, and this was primarily an African American population in Kentucky, 84 out of 1,000. And then they had 3 conditions. Champs Control was the control group, and they just did asset mapping, like what are the assets in our community. So it shows the power of an adult in a young person's life, because they were led in a group and they had projects to do. The next, Reducing the Risk, is a very well-respected American program that is a comprehensive sex ed program, a lot around condom negotiation. And at the end of a year, 60 out of 1,000 young people got pregnant. But those who took love notes, only 35 out of 1,000 got pregnant after a year. So this wasn't intend to use a condom, hope to use a condom. This was just, did you get pregnant or not? So really significant results, really powerful results showing the impact of relationship education on the lives of young people. So to wrap up, we know that...
Hey, can I add?
Sure.
Can I add something there?
Sure.
As I understand also, I think 11 or 16% were LGBT. I have the 16 and 11 mixed up. The other percentage was a refugee. And also, what's interesting is that not only reduced pregnancy, but those teens that had not begun sex, a larger proportion of them continued to delay. And those that were sexually active were using more contraception and condoms. So I just thought that would be important to add.
Right. There are lots of good findings. And all of this information is on our website. You can go to the Relationship Smarts Plus landing page under our products or our programs, or the Love Notes landing page. And this research is there in detail. So to wrap up, we know that the UK now has this mandate to do sex and relationship education in their schools. They have to teach it. We know you may not have time to figure this all out. And we all want this instruction to be effective and engaging for young people. That's the mandate that's coming from the government authorities. So we'd like you to consider, or please do consider, using Relationship Smarts Plus in your school, implementing that with your young people to meet this mandate. Now, to help you make that decision, in the sidebar in your GoToWebinar control panel, there are 5 handouts there, and we will also be sending you an email with these handouts included. And they include the table of contents of Relationship Smarts Plus, a sample lesson, this report with the blue cover that I've been showing you, the issue brief on the study done in Louisville on pregnancy prevention, and the flyer for our training in the UK this fall. I'd also be pleased to provide you with a 30-day, online review copy. So please email me, kreed@dibblesinstitute.org, and I'm happy to set you up with an online review copy of Relationship Smarts Plus so you could take a look and see how it goes. And we'll be having a second webinar for the UK on March 21st, where Marlene will go even deeper into what is in the program. And here's that information. I will be sending you a link to register for that. And please do share it with your friends and colleagues and networks there in the UK, because we think this is a really important thing that schools are being asked to do. And it's good to do it in a way that makes a real impact on students. Finally, we will be in the UK. This flyer is on your downloads there. We will be in the UK in early October 2018. Marlene will be the trainer. A 2-day training in conjunction with an organization, a charity called How to Thrive, who are the ones who selected us for the Healthy Minds Research Project. And we'd love to have you join us there. So please consider that. So any questions? That really concludes our little discussion here. Any any questions from those of you in the UK or elsewhere about Relationship Smarts Plus while we have Marlene on the line? No questions. Okay.
Well, wait, no. A teacher is known to pause a little bit longer.
Okay. We wait a little bit longer. We can outwait you. Well, let me keep going.
That's one of the things that part of my, I teach at a 2-year college. I have for years. I also do a tremendous amount of work pro bono in the community, in high schools, middle schools, in community-based programs with youth. But I also run an active-based learning project for teachers to improve teaching. And it's one of the things we learn is that we need to pause longer.
I see. Okay. Okay. Well, so there we go. We're going to pause, but while we pause, we're going to thank you for joining us today, and we will send you a follow-up email early next week with links to this webinar and materials that you can share with colleagues and friends. And you have our contact information. We did get one question. You're right, Marlene. Laura is asking, how many schools use Relationship Smarts Plus now? Well, in the UK, it's about 40 schools are using Relationship Smarts Plus now. In the United States, it's thousands. We published, Marlene's first version of Relationship Smarts Plus was published in 2007. Mm-hmm. And since then, literally thousands, it's in every state. Now, are they currently using it? We don't know. But what's interesting about this program is you can have confidence that it's been it's gone around the track a few times. And Marlene is very good about listening to feedback from users. And so she's always in her, whatever the next version is, implementing that. So it's been used in a lot of states. Laura, if you're interested in who's in your state, just email me and we can have this discussion. So someone else says, I teach the ETR materials and would like to know how many lessons for each grade is. So I think, Stephanie, you're asking, so the program is 13 lessons. It can be taught we've seen Relationship Smarts Plus taught down in the 8th grade, maybe even the 7th grade, and it can be taught up through juniors and seniors. Love Notes, which expands that range. It can be taught from 16-year-olds to 25-year-olds. But unlike ETR materials, people teach it where they're able to. So some people can get all 13 lessons in the 8th grade or 9th grade. We have some clients who split it into 2 years and teach the first 6 lessons in year 1 and the second 7 lessons in year 2. So it just really depends on what works for your school and your situation.
Reducing the risk is one of the leading ETR programs. And, I always in my soul, when I started this work, knew that if we went beyond bodies, sex, mechanics, risks, all of this. I mean, how many young people have had condoms in their pockets, but they don't use them? I mean, you have to have a lot of motivation. And I always felt like, if we could embed this in a larger context of building healthy relationships. I mean, I've always said to people, if you don't know much about healthy relationships, you are probably going to make some pretty poor sexual choices. So I think it's instructive that, in this big study in Kentucky, which was pretty major, we got, far greater results.
Right, because young people, we often talk to them about sex, but we never talk to them about the relationships that surround sex, and
that helps you make better sexual choices.
Right. So thank you all for attending today. This concludes our webinar, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here on March 21st, where Marlene will go more deeply into all the aspects of the program. Thank you, and we'll send you that follow-up email. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.